J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, D. Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. Jimmy, it is Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024. And if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Men Speak. So if you haven't already, please hit the like button, the notification button, and the subscribe button. Not necessarily in that order. Make sure you get all three of them done. And then if you're here watching the show live, invite a friend or a family member or a coworker to watch with you so you guys have something interesting to talk about for the rest of the week. With that being said, Tom, I know we have a busy show, so let's do what we do best, which is bring the most informative news, information, and stories about the Black community to the internet.
and make sure that you are the most informed person in your
Yes.
circle. All right, let's get this party started right. We're going to, of course, start off with our May baby birthdays for this month. The majority of these folks, I think you're going to probably be familiar with, but a
Okay.
couple of faces that you will definitely want to see. First on today, May the 8th, everybody who is, I believe, at least a Gen Xer baby boomer should know this face, even though it is definitely a younger rendition of the great Philip Bailey, singer, songwriter, percussionist, and one of the two lead singers of who I consider to be the best band of all time. That is the Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Elements. I mean, there's a whole
An
lot of,
argument can be made, Tom.
what's that?
I said an argument can be made. One of the best ever. So
I would say that for sure, Jimmy. When you look at his vocal range, it is unparalleled, probably of anyone past or present. I would,
dude, I mean, if you just listen to Reason, if you want to see some range, you listen to the song Reason, and it's like, man, I don't know how you hit those notes and how you know what to them, but somehow they make it happen. So, but yes, I agree with you.
and I would say probably the greatest falsetto voice of all time. With all that being said, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Vocal Group Hall of
Congratulations.
Fame with the Earth, Wind, and Fire. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame and earned a Grammy nomination for the Best R&B Vocal Performance for a very popular song with Phil Collins named Easy Lover. But overall, in his history, won 7 Grammys out of 21 nominations. That is a lot of work and a lot of talent over that period of time, Jimmy.
Well, Tom, and you also got to keep in mind that when they started, it wasn't like it was easy to break into those academies and be recognized and accepted. So, but yeah, congratulations to him. Earth, Wind, and Fire, great band.
And the other thing, Jimmy, that was when folks could actually sing. No Milli Vanilli.
Tom, we're going to introduce something new. I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but we're going to have a recognition contest where we're going to play a music clip, and then the first person to give us the name and the title of the song. But here's a twist, Tom, that
Okay.
we've eliminated all of the music tracks, and it's
Ah,
just the vocals.
okay.
And you can really, I mean, when I listen to some of the music, when it's just the person singing with no music tracks with it, versus back then in the Motown era to compare to now, and it's like night and day. It's not even a comparison. So you'll see what I'm talking about when we after we do the birthdays, we'll do our first song and get this contest started. But go ahead with the
All right.
birthdays.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that, Jimmy. So let's go ahead and get through these birthdays so that we can get to the music. On tomorrow, May the 9th, this beautiful and very talented young lady, Rosario Dawson.
Ahsoka from Star
Yeah,
Wars. I'm just
yeah.
joking. Although she is the latest Ahsoka from Star Wars, but yes,
But
talented actress.
yes, born on May the 9th, made her feature film debut in the 1999 independent drama Kids, which I quite frankly have never watched, but she's in some very popular films, Jimmy. He Got Game, co-starring with Denzel Washington in 1998, Men in Black 2 with Will Smith in
Yeah.
2002, the very popular film Rent in 2005, and also kind of a dark film, but one movie that I thoroughly enjoyed called Sin City as well, kind of a cartoon movie. And she also does a lot of voiceover work for Marvel, DC Comics, and Nickelodeon. Happy birthday to her on tomorrow. And, keep going out there and doing the thing. Very, very talented young lady. This next brother, I don't think there's anybody living who probably doesn't know this name and this face. It's kind of you love him or you hate him. But on May the 11th, the man, Louis Farrakhan,
Oh, the
has
minister.
yes, sir. Louis Farrakhan, born on May the 11th, coming up in a couple of days. Actually born Louis Eugene Walcott on May the 11th, 1933, the charismatic leader
Yes.
of the Nation of Islam. Of course, one of the highlights among resurrecting the Muslim nation, or what some folks call the Black Muslims in America, but who we call the Nation of Islam, led the Million Man March in 1995. Jimmy, can you believe it's been that long
I
since?
can, Tom.
But earlier in his life, for those of you who may not know very much about his biography, he was actually a calypso singer. He was, I believe, was a violinist. He also, of course, after he
was a violinist. Yeah, concert violinist. He still plays.
Exactly. He served as the minister at the Boston and Harlem mosques for the nation, and then, of course, was appointed to the post of the national representative of the Nation of Islam by then Elijah Muhammad, coming up in a couple of days. Early happy birthday to him, and hopefully he has a great happy birthday with family and friends. Our next birthday baby, another face that I think you're going to remember, very talented and lovely young lady, Kim Fields. Hair has been,
Facts of life.
Exactly. She has a birthday coming up on May the 12th. First got some claim to fame on the old show that we all know and love, Good Times, Jimmy. Then really came of age as the role of Tootie on Different Strokes, and then The Facts of Life as Regine Hunter on Living Single. And off the screen, she actually began doing some directing for Nickelodeon on the sitcom Kenan and Kel and Tyler Perry's House of Pain. I did not know. And she is currently on Netflix on the original series, The Upshaws, which, quite frankly, I've never seen before, but I don't watch a lot of TV, Jimmy.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Absolutely. And our very last birthday baby, Jimmy, for those of you who probably who keep up with track and field, you might know this face and this name. I wasn't as familiar with her, but she's been in the game for a little while. Dawn Harper Nelson. She's a track and field star extraordinaire who specializes in the 100-meter hurdles, earned a gold medal in the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, got a silver medal in the 2012 Olympic Games in London, and the 2017 World Champion, and became the first American 100-meter hurdler to ever win a gold at the Olympics and then medal in the following Olympics. And she is a member of the 2022 class of the UCLA Athletics Hall of Fame. Her birthday is on May the 13th. So, hey, early happy birthday to you. Hopefully you have a fantastic time with family, friends, and loved ones on your birthday. And before we get started, let's acknowledge a couple of people who we have on the chat line. Miss Audrey K. Booker, thank you for, of course, showing up. Miss Audrey K., thank you very much. Good evening to you. And Miss Tanya Hall, hey, y'all, to you as well. Thank you for joining us.
Tanya.
Yes.
Miss Hall.
And my good friend, of course, Asa Al-Kabilan, hey, the team extraordinaire. So I'm pretty sure we'll have a couple of other folks on the chat line pretty soon, Jimmy. But now I am excited to have this musical rendition added to our repertoire and see what it goes though. So for those of you,
go ahead, Tom.
Not joining us early, kind of revisit what we're going to do. Hello, Miss Chastity. Thanks for joining.
Okay, so what we're going to do, Tom, is at the end of the year, we will give out a gift, maybe some merch, a shirt or a cup or a coffee cup or something. We'll find some nice gift to give. But here's where the contest will work. From this show going forward to the end of the year, we'll play 2 songs. These songs we play without music. It'll just be the artist singing. And the first person to type in the name of the artist and the song. So you can get credit for one and not the other, or you can get credit for both. And we're going to do 2 songs a show. So one right after the birthday, and right after the birthday people, and then the second one will come somewhere towards the end of the show, maybe with about a quarter till. With 15 minutes left, we'll do the second one. So with that being said, get your fingers ready. Be at the ready. And the first person to hit the chat line, so it has nothing to do with us. It's not like we have to pick the phone up and say you're the first caller or the 7th caller. So this is all on you. So get ready. First person, you should know this.
Girl, I've been watching you from so far across the floor now, baby. That's nothing new. I've watched you so many times before now, baby. I see that look in your eyes.
Look in your eyes.
And what it's telling me, and you know, ooh, girl, that I'm not shy. I'm glad you picked up on my telepathy now, baby.
You read my mind.
You know you did.
I wanna shake you down.
Away.
I can give you all the loving you need.
I'm gonna love you.
Come on, let me take you down.
Hey, baby.
We'll go all the way to
Okay, so a little bit of delay started, but that's our first artist. And type the name and the name of the song. So you went up to
All
2
right.
points.
All right.
And we'll keep a running tally of our winners throughout the year, and then we'll announce our leading vote getter at the end of the year and give out some kind of gift.
All right. So we got Miss
Miss
Carolyn.
You may have to keep me informed.
Okay, we got Miss Carol who joined us. Miss D. Brewer put in Billy Ocean. Miss Tanya Hall, duh, she said the name, but the name was in the song, but she didn't give us the artist.
Did she give us the name of the song?
D. Brewer was the first. She said Billy Ocean, and then Tanya Hall said Shake You Down.
Did anybody get the name of the song correct?
Uh-oh, she said, okay, Tanya said Gregory somebody, but we got to have the full name.
You're the judge, so you can give him partial credit or
okay. Okay, Miss Curl just came in with the full name, Gregory Abbott.
Okay, ding, 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 that's correct. So did she give the name of the song also?
She did not. She gave the name.
Name of the artist, so that's 1 point. So there's still 1 point up to grab for the name of the song.
Well, the name of the song, Miss Tanya said "Shake You Down." She has the name.
So those are 2 winners for the first song. So 1 point awarded to each.
Okay, I get it. So it's 1 point for the name and 1 point for the artist.
Yes.
Okay, and so what you're saying is these points are going to accumulate over time until the end of the year.
Correct. And then at the end of the year, we'll do something special for whoever's the leading point getter.
Okay, so we're going to have to keep up with these points then.
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. So we got 1 and 1. Miss Tanya got 1 point, and Miss Carol has got 1 point.
Congratulations to both. Wow,
all right.
Know your music history.
All right, good deal.
So what's our first story, T?
All right, and we've got a lot of stories, so let's go ahead and get things moving. First, we've got a jewel in our community that has gotten a very prestigious honor, Jimmy, that we have been following and tracking for some time, for the last couple of years. Miss Opal Lee considered to be, of course, the grandmother of Juneteenth, has been recently recognized, actually last week, with the highest civilian honor possible, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She received this award last Friday, May the 3rd, alongside a few other civil rights icons that some of you may be aware of. Clarence B. Jones, who was a civil rights activist and an attorney who actually helped Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. draft the I Have a Dream speech, and Medgar Evers, posthumously, of course, who was a civil rights fighter in Mississippi, who came back from World War II to fight against segregation until, unfortunately, he was taken down by a murderer's bullet. But Miss Opal Lee, in 2017, a retired teacher and counselor at the time, walked from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. to lobby Congress to recognize Juneteenth as a federal holiday. She walked 2.5 miles at a time during her voyage to honor the 2.5 years it took General Gordon Granger to arrive in Texas to announce the freedom of enslaved Africans, our ancestors, who were forced to build this great U.S. economy, of course, without any compensation for multiple hundreds of years. At the end of the day, Jimmy, she was honored also in 2023, last year, in Texas for her activism efforts with a portrait of herself that is now hanging in the Texas State Capitol Senate chambers. And she received the Fort Worth Inc. magazine's 2022 Person of the Year. And also she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2022, as well as, of course, everyone does or should know, Juneteenth as a federal holiday was signed and passed into law in 2021. So we want to wish her congratulations and thank her for what she has done as a service to our community and all of America.
And Tom, she's not done because she's still walking and involved in activities to either raise money or bring the issues. So, but congratulations. No, she's well deserved.
And Jimmy, I believe she is like 97 years old.
Yeah, it's embarrassing to say, but she's probably in better shape than I am with all that walking and that she's leading these marches on. So, but yes.
Are you trying to say she could outwalk you, Jimmy?
Oh, yes, Tom, she would. There's no way I'm walking from Texas to Maryland, Virginia, to the Capitol. I would have passed out a long time ago. So, day one. So, yes, she's much more fit than I am.
All right, Jimmy. Again, congratulations to Ms. Opal Lee. Keep fighting a good fight.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for what you are doing for everybody, Jimmy, and really pushing the narrative on making this country live up to its true deeds.
That's what we do, Tom. She's a hero.
Exactly. All right, Jimmy, let's go to our next story, Jimmy. And I think you're going to really like this one. We got probably some rattlers out there from the Rattle Nation. Well, Florida A&M University just received the single largest donation in the school history, $237 million, Jimmy, gift that they received from Isaac Batterson's Seventh Family Trust and its CEO, Gregory Jerami. The donation was handed to Florida A&M University President Larry Robinson at a recent commencement ceremony, where Gregory Jerami, CEO of the Batterson Farms Corporation, was the keynote speaker. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And these are the type of things, Jimmy, that we talk about all the time in terms of making sure that our institutions have a future. But this donation represents the largest single donation to FAMU in its 136-year history. It is also almost doubling the existing endowment that it has of $160 million and appears to be the largest donation in HBCU history. There was, I think, within the last year or so, Jimmy, you may have remembered this, a $100 million gift to Spelman College.
Yes.
At that time, dubbed the largest single donation ever to an HBCU, but that even surpasses that, Jimmy. And I mean, absolutely amazing. This is not life-changing. This is institution-changing. The capital investment will support academic initiatives, student success and athletics. The foundation's current endowment, as I mentioned earlier, is $160 million. This will bring it up to almost $400 million. Gregory is a pioneer in producing and selling high-quality hemp seeds out of Texas, Jimmy, of all places. Very quiet. He did not attend Florida A&M, didn't even graduate from college, but started his career by building a landscaping business and worked in property management and economic development consulting before establishing his farming business. Is the youngest African-American producer and seed seller in the state of Texas. He actually overcame a diagnosis with cerebral palsy, seizure disorder, and severe ADHD brought by a fetal alcohol syndrome and infant opioid addiction. So, I mean, this is someone, Jimmy, who really had to struggle to build a platform for success, but he fortunately entered the foster care system at 10 days old and was adopted into a loving home at the age of 2.5, was mentored by former mayor of Arlington, I think his name was Robert Cluck, and a local banker at Merrill Lynch who taught him investing and the importance of financial responsibility. Took on this foundation and converted his small-scale lawn care business into a successful property management venture, and the rest is history. He actually sold his company in 2016, founded the Battersea Southeast Capital Group, an investment and consulting firm where he oversaw deals in Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas, bought 114 acres of land with 7 warehouses with a goal of hiring 600 people and building the largest commercial hydroponic warehouse site in West Texas.
Okay. Yeah, hydroponics is a good industry to go into because there's a lot of food that can be rapidly grown in water without soil, and also fish if they decide to go in that arena. But Tom, here's congratulations to FAMU for this, but I'm a little disappointed. $160 million for all of the graduates that FAMU has produced, and for them to only have $160 million in their endowment fund is an embarrassment for Black people. So I'm glad that this brother has stepped up and made this donation to them and for all that can. But Tom, I personally know, for all the industries that we keep single-handedly going, tennis shoes, hair care, barbecue, a lot of other things that some of that money could be diverted to contributing to the HBCUs that have graduated. The 104, 105 HBCUs, Tom, graduate as many Black people as the 3,100 primarily white universities. So we have a debt that we owe the HBCUs, and Black people, for all of you that graduate from HBCUs, I contribute to an HBCU and I didn't even graduate from an HBCU. But, make sure you give back. Send whatever, $5, $10, no donations too small. Trust me, to help build up these endowment funds, because these are things that help keep the schools viable and functional and going. So they don't have to always be on their knees every year begging Congress for money to stay afloat.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, Jimmy, in terms of the endowment. I'm actually looking at a list of the top 10 endowments for HBCUs in the United States. The largest is by far Howard University, that has a almost $927 million endowment.
Yeah, and he broke the $1 billion mark, Tom.
Right, exactly. You have Spelman College, who has $475 million endowment. I believe that, let me see, Meharry Medical College, almost $180 million. North Carolina A&T, $164 million. Florida A&M, this obviously, I think this article that I'm looking at, that was actually this year. That's pretty interesting. It says that Florida A&M had $113 million, but this article that I was looking at said about $160 million. So some of these may be a little bit dated, but that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the endowments for our HBCU.
No, Tom, what will give you an idea of what we're looking at is that if you did that same list for white universities and you took whoever was the lowest, number 10 on the list, would still have probably 10, 20 times more money than the top 10 combined from HBCUs.
Yeah, you may be correct, Jimmy. I know obviously when we look at the Ivy League schools, that they're typically going to have the largest endowment. Looking at Harvard University, wow, we're looking at Harvard with 49 billion with a B, Yale with 40 billion, Stanford with 36 billion. If we just go past, if we go just down to number 20, Brown University has $6 billion, and so this is extremely significant.
And
If we
Tom, that's
go down,
one school.
yes, and matter of fact, now that I look at, you're correct. Matter of fact, Jimmy, those were private schools. If we look at the public schools, we look at the University of Texas system, 44, 45 billion. Texas A&M, it says about 20 billion. University of Michigan, about 18 billion.
And Tom, there's nothing wrong with giving to any of those schools. Um, it's an absurdity of riches, but this is why I'm bothered when I see proposals put out, budget proposals, which generally don't go anywhere from when the White House submit their budget to Congress, and I see cuts to the HBCUs. With the absurdity of riches given to other schools, why in the world are we finding ways to propose? Now, no, normally Congress doesn't act on these budget cuts, but if they did, the HBCUs wouldn't get anything, Tom. So, but just the fact that you would even propose it when we're spending so much money, especially the schools who have an enormous amount of riches. Harvard doesn't need any more money from the federal government as far as I'm concerned. But yet they get billions every year in research grants and other endowment money. And if 1/10 of that time will go to HBCUs, our HBCUs will be in much better shape than where they are now. So we got to continue to fight for every dime and nickel to keep our HBCUs afloat.
Well, this is what we have to take into consideration. If we look at who's running the government, regardless of what side of the aisle you lean to, who's running the government and what do they look like and where they're going to probably be giving their money to. If you look at the larger endowments, this young man gave a $237 million donation to Florida A&M University, but it was obviously an endowment from a pretty sizable business, which is where the larger endowments are going to come from. And, we talked about this before, Jimmy, but, there's this small thing called, support for your community. So when you look at the big five banks and who they're really giving their money to start businesses that are going to grow into the next Google, the next Apple, the next Facebook, so that when they make these billions of dollars, they can make these significant contributions to our HBCUs. That money, unfortunately, just isn't typically going into our community. And so as a result, individually, we can definitely continue to send money to our HBCUs, which I am, in spite of my alma mater. I'm giving my money to an HBCU this year for sure. But the thing about it is this: our government kind of steers the money to folks who've got money already, not folks who need the most. And unfortunately, also, Jimmy, our banks, including our government, have always redlined the money away from the folks who actually built this country or whose ancestors built this country. And to throw mud on top of everything else, even when they've stolen for us or stolen from our families or stolen from our ancestors, they're not even willing to acknowledge that, much less say, you know what? This is the right thing to do. Here's a check. They do it for everybody else.
I agree, Tom. So, but once again, we can't be asleep at the wheel. We have to continue to push our government to do what we wanted to do also. We're citizens here also. We pay into the system, and it's not like they're not handing out some of our money also. And so there's nothing wrong with Jews fighting for money for Brandeis or Yeshiva University, or for the Ivy Leaguers to fight for Brown or Columbia or Harvard and Yale and Princeton. So there's nothing wrong with Black people fighting for the HBCUs.
Correct.
Even if you didn't graduate from an HBCU, we need to make sure those institutions are there for future generations who will benefit from them being there. So we can't let our institutions fall by the wayside over money.
Agreed. And I'm going to reach out and acknowledge Miss Dominique Bidings because she actually
Okay.
worked in a capacity as a fundraiser. So she hobnobbed with some of the big money people at one of our HBCUs. She's not currently doing that, but I know she's done that in the past. As a matter of fact, here in Texas at HT Houston Tillotson College. So would love her feedback on, things that, we can do at an individual and institutional level to lean towards making sure that we're getting the money that we deserve. Because of course we know like the Tennessee States of the world who have been cheated out of money for decades upon decades. But then when they ask for the government, demand from the government what they are owed, then all of a sudden they get audits.
Oh, they get broke.
Their entire board gets changed over. So that's what we're talking about. We've got to hold ourselves accountable to holding other people accountable, including the institution of government, for making sure that we get what we earned. And in addition to that, putting our money where our mouth is and stop giving our money to folks who are not doing anything for us.
That is true, Tom. I agree.
All right,
Good story.
Let's go ahead and go to our next story, Jimmy, because we've still got quite a few articles on that. Kind of a feel-good story, Jimmy. We've talked about this before. There is a gentleman from the Bahamas Islands who is one of the first trainers to actually have a horse be entered into the Kentucky Derby.
Okay.
Last 35 years, his name is Larry Demerit. When we think of the Kentucky Derby, I have some friends who've been to the Derby before, but we don't really think of this as a sport that we have been involved with and are connected with. And if you know your history, you know that the Kentucky Derby, the foundation of itself, we had African-American jockeys and trainers who actually dominated the sport at its foundation. But Larry Demerit became the second Black trainer since 1951 to saddle a horse into the Kentucky Derby. The other one, Hank Allen, finished sixth with his horse Northern Wolf in 1989. But Demerit, a 74-year-old from the Bahamas, had a father, actually, who was also a trainer from the Bahamas. And the costliest horse in this last year, the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby, which is a 20-horse field, was Sierra Leone, which was purchased for $2.3 million. Now, Demerit's horse, named Western Saratoga, was kind of what you would call a value investment at $11,000. But, he's definitely a shining pride for this young man, I'll call it, in his 11-horse stable. The colt has already earned, Jimmy, $460,000 on an $11,000 investment. I think that's about a 42 something return on your investment, considering that the owner invested $11,000, into this particular thoroughbred. The only team member of the Derby coming into the Kentucky that had experience was the jockey Jesus Castaña, and they finished 12th in this past Derby. The winner, Mystic Dan, was ridden by Brian Hernandez Jr., who earned a prize of $3.1 million. So first and foremost, just getting to this point, Jimmy, was an honor. And so we definitely want to congratulate Larry and wish him the best of luck. And of course, in future high-end derbies, Jimmy. And, all that being said, this is a part of our history that, quite frankly, is being erased in state houses. And so we don't know that we had, dominance in the foundation of a sport like the Kentucky Derby. And so our kids don't think about training a horse or being a jockey and riding a horse and the money that they could make in that. That's why we have to continue to embrace and cherish our history.
Well, Tom, the money is in the training, because every now and then you run across, I know it's after these horses retire, and they only run for about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, and then they stud them out. But there's big money. They still earn big money even in studding fees after they are no longer racing. But every now and then we have these stories where someone buys a thoroughbred, for $10,000, $20,000, and then the horse ends up earning, a couple $1 million going to the Derby. Even if you don't win, just getting there is an honor. So congratulations to their brother. But yes, it was an activity. Horse training used to be our thing.
Yeah.
But now you can't. You go to the Derby. any other the Belmont or the Preakness, you don't see any black trainers. You may see some dark Latinos riding the horses, but yeah, you for as a vertical, this is an industry, Tom, that we're no longer involved in, and that we help make great. Once again, this is why we need to know our history, Tom, and folks, this is why the Black Man Speak is so important for you to tune in, because Tom somehow finds these stories that are interesting to talk about. So, but you can keep this one under your hat as one of the feel good stories, to say that, if you have children who are interested in the horses, go ahead and encourage them to get involved, because they may be the next trainer who has a triple head winner.
Exactly. And I remember, Jimmy, and I presume they still have it, the Future Farmers of America.
Yes.
With animals. I know I had a cousin who years ago lived in Conroe, Texas. He was in Future Farmers of America. I have a younger cousin who is a vet. And so again, I mean, there are all type of there are no such thing as what we would call black or white sports or black or white things, even when it comes to investing. So the reality of it is there is nothing, if we set the bar and set our heights to it, that our children cannot do that we cannot do for that.
That is true.
All right, Jimmy, let's go to our next
story.
This is another pretty interesting story that I think you're going to kind of like, Jimmy.
Okay.
And this was coming out of Detroit, Michigan. I think they called it the D is what they called it, but a black-run full-scale grocery store has recently opened in Detroit, the Detroit People's Food Co-op.
So we're feeding ourselves, Tom? Is that what you're trying to say?
What's that?
That we're feeding ourselves?
Yes, we're feeding ourselves.
Something besides a hair can barbecue?
No, this is not hair can barbecue.
Man, okay.
All right, but this establishment was opened with the goal of providing quality grocery options to a predominantly black city, which is Detroit. The co-op is a special novelty where anyone can be an owner by becoming a member of the co-op. The location has now over 2,740 members, facilitated by the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network. The 15,000 square foot supermarket shelves are stocked with fresh and local products, including produce from black-owned farms with herbs, spices, condiments, meat, dairy products, etc. There are also vegan options. I think there are a couple of folks out there who will probably enjoy that, having some vegan options as well. Baked goods, canned and packaged items, snacks, drinks. It's a full service deal, Jimmy. While members must be at least 21 years of age, lifetime membership only costs $200. The Motor City has been improving access to sustainable food for several years, Jimmy. Of course, as you and I have talked about, many of our communities are considered to be food deserts, where it is almost impossible to find fresh fruits and vegetables without having to drive all over town. But this black-owned grocery store, they've been sparse over many years, especially in large urban areas like Detroit. Almost 70% of residents in our communities are what we call food insecure, lacking reliable access to food. The official grand opening will be on May the 12th with speakers, live bands, children activities, workshops, etc. So this is something that I was very, very excited to find out about, Jimmy.
Well, Tom, this is a genius move, and let me explain why. One, to get a person to $100 is not a sum of money that's going to break anyone financially. And to get a large number of people to invest into your project, first of all, they feel a sense of ownership, which they have. But on top of that, Tom, you also have a customer base. Where are you going to spend your money now with some food outlet that you have no vested interest in, or the one where you invested your money and become a lifetime member of? On top of that, Tom, within there are several thousand members that they've gathered up. They have people they can select a workforce from. I'm pretty sure they have some lawyers in there, some accountants, some other professional services people that can provide services at either pro bono rate or a discounted rate for the organization. So they have a path to growth. And on top of that, Tom, they can replicate this model pretty much across the country wherever they want, because now they have a working model where they can say, when people say, well, will this work? Well, will it work? It is working. We have we have a store that's up and running, so we can duplicate this in other places. And Tom, to get a few thousand people to come up with $100 as your seed money to help you grow the next one and the next one and the next one, with each store, their buying power only increases. And since they're sourcing their goods from local farmers, so when we've told the stories of how the USDA doesn't treat black farmers fairly,
Correct.
we've told that story so many times. Well, I hope this is a way for black farmers to bring their products to the market and bypass the white distributors, bypass the federal government, and still be able to make money providing quality food to people who appreciate what you're doing. So this is a great move, Tom. This is one of the best stories we've heard this year. And on top of that, this is a model that can be replicated not just in food, but in other places. But once again, it calls for the mass of the black people to start taking some of your money and invest in something that benefits you. Spending your money with non-black people is a fool's errand, and we're very good at doing that. So we need to stop. And at some point, we need to invest in ourselves. So yeah, Tom, this is a great story. In fact, we need to follow up on the grand opening and see if we can find some video to play next time. Next show after their grand opening.
No, that sounds fantastic. I was very excited when I saw this. And again, to your point, genius move. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to be a stakeholder, in something that is going to improve not only your health, but your quality of life and your community as well.
Say, Tom, next time we cover this, let's see if we can find some contact information, because I wouldn't mind becoming a stakeholder myself. I don't live in Detroit, but I would like to contribute to what they're doing. And so let's see if we can post some information on how to become a stakeholder.
All right, that sounds good. Okay, we've got our good friend and fraternity brother, Frederick V. Roberts, Esquire, who just joined the line. Good evening, Brother Esquire from the Bahamas. I hope you were here when we were talking about the brother from the Bahamas, not fraternity brother, but Bahamian brother, who just trained a horse that went into the Kentucky Derby. So I don't know if you know him, Larry Demerit. I'm pretty sure with you being the historian extraordinary, you probably know about this guy. But we are at about a quarter till, Jimmy, and I think we have to come up with our next lyric.
Okay.
Exactly.
You're right, Tom. Well, Tom gets away from when you're having fun. Let's see if this will queue up a little faster than the first one.
Why don't we do this, Jimmy? For folks who got on late, tell them what we're doing so they'll know what we're doing.
Okay, so each show we're going to play 2 songs from an artist that you should know, and it's just a vocal track. So all the music tracks have been filtered out. And then the first person to enter the name of the artist and the name of the song, you get 1 point for each. And it's first come, first serve, Tom. So it's all on you and how fast you can type. But these are artists that you should know, and in the music you should know. Some of us have been conceived on some of this music. I call the love making backseat music, but when you can't afford the motel. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, our second song, we already played the first one, which is Gregory Abbott, "Shaken," and I believe was Miss Tanya Hall and Miss Carol Wilson got the 2 inches correct. So here we go with the second song. Get ready to cue it up. Get your fingers ready. Be at the keyboard. Here we go.
I bet you're wondering how I knew about your plans to make me blue with some other guy you knew before. Between the two of us, guys, you know I love you more. It took me by surprise, I must say, when I found out yesterday. Don't you know that I heard it through the grapevine? Not much longer would you be mine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. grapevine. Oh, I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, well.
Through the grapevine, not much longer would you be mine, baby.
All right, Jimmy. It
Okay.
looks like Miss Carol Wilson was the first person to get both the name and the song, the name of the song and the name of the artist. Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye. Miss Marion Square, she will be the first runner-up. She was able to do the same thing.
Okay, looks like
But
Carol is running away with
Carol,
this, but don't despair. You'll have a chance
Good
to
deal.
catch up to Miss Carol next week. There'll be 2 songs played until the end of the year. And like I said, whoever our point total getter is at that point, we'll find some kind of merch to give to him, a nice shirt or a Black Man Speak coffee mug. So, but we'll have something nice. We'll figure out something, a hoodie or something. But congratulations, Miss Carol. Wow.
Good deal. And
Uh,
actually, I got an interesting comment from Brother Roberts, who's from the Bahamas. He said, I read about the young man who's 74, by the way. Would you believe I wanted to be a jockey when I was young? So actually, Brother Roberts wanted to be a jockey when he was a young man. Maybe you can write in why you didn't become a jockey, but we will go ahead and move forward with our next story. But put
Tom,
that in.
it's not too late, maybe not to be on the horse, but for him to own a horse.
Well, this is true. This is true.
You go. There's lots of thoroughbreds out there. Find you a good trainer and see what happens.
All right, give me a next story related to a supermarket, but kind of on the other end of the spectrum here. We do international stories every now and again, folks, and this is a very interesting international story. So, in Abuja, Nigeria, a Chinese-owned supermarket has been shut down over what authorities have alleged is denial or discrimination against African shoppers. Now, let me repeat this. This is a Chinese-owned supermarket in Abuja, Nigeria, the capital, by the way. And the supermarket owner allegedly exclusively permits individuals of Chinese descent only to enter. The Chinese Chamber of Commerce in Nigeria, of course, is denying any allegations of discrimination. I thought this was kind of an interesting story. The supermarket is a tenant in a building run by the China General Chamber of Commerce. An official at Nigeria's Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission said that a watchdog group has launched an official investigation. This follows widespread outrage by Nigerians and other nationals on social media after Nigerians shared their experience of being turned away by security when trying to enter the supermarket. In one of the videos, a man said he had discovered the supermarket online, but was blocked from entering the complex where it is located. At the gate, the security people told me that the supermarket is strictly for Chinese people. If you are a Nigerian, you can't go inside or buy anything, he said in the clip, which was kind of interesting to me, given that it's in Nigeria. Several Nigerians have demanded the closure of the supermarket, including a former senator who said any store in Nigeria that was not accessible to citizens should be forcibly opened or should be closed down. The supermarket's owner has not commented as of yet. She has been summoned to appear before the Consumer Protection Agency. Watchdog Group says that the supermarket will remain closed until the owner complies with the summons. And by the way, Nigeria, one of the largest countries, over 100 million,
Yes, in Africa.
has a Chinese population of less than 10,000 residents.
Tom, they would not have to worry about me spending my black dollars, Nigerian dollars, my African dollars with their store if they didn't want me there. And I wish the people of Nigeria would, protest, but don't be in any hurry to give money to people who don't want your money, don't want to be with you, don't want to provide goods and services to you. So forcing them to take your money is not the solution. You know, the best solution is just a boycott. Just don't go there. Don't spend your money with them. You know, if this Chinese only, then fine. You know, let them cater to the Chinese and take your dollars somewhere else. Hopefully there's someone else to who's willing to take your money and provide goods and services in exchange for it.
And Jimmy, I found this interesting because I've been to a few Chinatowns, San Francisco, New York, and a couple of other places. And
Yes.
I have yet to even see a non-China owned establishment in a Chinatown, any place in Chinatown, which happens to be in the United States. And I found it interesting that an establishment would even be allowed to set up shop in such a way that they would deny access to the citizens of that country. Because as you and I have both talked about, if we tried to set up shop in a Chinese neighborhood, Indian neighborhood, some other neighborhoods, Jimmy, number one, we probably would not have been able to set up shop, number one. And if you did set up shop, you were having to get the capital, probably wouldn't last for a couple of months because nobody in that neighborhood would even patronize you unless you were one of theirs.
But Tom, this doesn't surprise me because the Chinese government in China has a pretty sizable black population, African population, and they do everything possible to discourage their Chinese women from marrying African men. Although there is a section in one of the large cities that's primarily like a safe area for interracial couples to marry and set up their shop, and they're quite successful, Tom, with their import and exports to other regions of the world as they hub their business in China and their contacts there. But the Chinese are I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, Tom, that they don't have a long, rich history of dealing with non-Chinese people. So I'm just going to be kind and say it that way. But let's face it, they're a pretty racist country, and not just them. There's some other. I mean, Japan may be friendly, but Japan doesn't have a rich history of dealing with foreigners either. You're talking a lot of the Asian countries are 99%, whatever the Asian population is. They just don't have a lot of foreigners coming into the country. To them, they opening the doors for white people, was a big step for them. And then have to expand it out to black people, especially a sizable population that's coming from Africa, is daunting for them. It's probably downright scary. And then especially in China where they have the one birth policy, the two birth policy, and to find themselves a lot of the women are marrying African men. To them that's mix up their bloodline because they're very conscious about being a pure Chinese. More so than a lot of other places around the world. So this is a conflict. I think it's a growing pain, and I think this just exhibits their attitudes deep down, Tom, that they rather just stick within themselves. And if that's the case, more power to you, because as soon as you told me that you don't want me to shop at your store, you wouldn't have to worry about me ever coming back to your store again, shopping online or physical.
I would agree, Jimmy. I thought this was kind of an intriguing story, especially under the circumstances that this is a Chinese-owned supermarket in Nigeria, which happens.
They spend a lot of money in Africa, so as far as they're concerned, they're buying up Africa. They probably feel that they own more of Nigeria than Nigerians do.
And to be quite honest with you, Jimmy, I think that's a very salient point that you bring up when you consider the investment that China has made in terms of infrastructure in Africa. And the reality of it is people don't put their money there for no good reason. And quite frankly, I don't think they're doing for the citizens of those countries on the continent. So something that they might want to be aware of. Let's get to the last two things, Jimmy. I'm gonna skip one thing, and we're gonna kind of go to a specific item that you had mentioned that has been in the news, and that is NBA playoffs and the firing of Davin Ham, or I guess I would say why the Lakers canned Ham. After 2 seasons, Jimmy, Davin Ham, in his first year after taking over for Frank Vogel, who had been fired after leading them to a championship, he takes over a team that was sputtering. They get to the conference finals in his first year. The second year, they get into the playoffs via a play-in. I guess we'll call it get gentlemanly swept by the Denver Nuggets, who was the same team that swept them straight up last year in the conference finals and ended up winning the NBA finals. But At the end of the day, Jimmy, the Lakers have a different set of standards. And after they got beat in this last series in the first round, Ham got canned.
Tom, a championship doesn't preserve your job. Western Conference Final doesn't preserve your job, and getting to the playoffs doesn't. Okay, so you lose to Denver, who seem to have your number, 2 years in a row. And so you have matchup issues. But this year, we knew the Lakers were going to struggle. They brought in Westbrook for a minute. That didn't work out.
And whose decision was it to bring in Westbrook? Who do you think influenced
I don't think it was Ham's decision. I think that was LeBron's decision.
Yes.
So that was LeBron's decision,
yes.
Which he is scapegoating because he doesn't want to accept any responsibility for what's going on. They tried to build a team around LeBron, but LeBron, he's still a good player. Yeah, I think he still averages 22, 23 points a game, which is really good on NBA standards. But let's face it, Tom, I watched them against Denver last year and this year, and Denver just seemed to have their number. Denver's younger, they're a little more athletic, and LeBron and AD can still produce the magic every now and then. They just can't do it game in and game out, Tom, over a 7-game series. So, and the one good game they had, they still lost on a Murray jump shot at the buzzer. But that pretty much took the win out of the cell at that point because that's the best they had played against Denver. It was the same thing last year. But Tom, I can say that he probably didn't deserve to get fired the way. I mean, he still had 2 years of his contract, so hopefully they'll pay the contract out. But they should have found a better way to schedule an exit, to have him walk away, to let him take the high road, and let him just say, hey, this is my decision. I think I need to go do something else. Our pathways are not lining up our thinking. They could have found some way to do it other than you're fired the way they did, Tom. So especially for a man who did everything possible to change the lineup up, to make them competitive. And, Tom, there's only so many players you can play with. They try playing big ball, that doesn't quite work because smaller teams outrun them. They try playing small ball, then the big teams give them trouble. So they have a problem where they just have too much money allocated, $50 million to LeBron, $49 million AD. Even they just re-signed Reese to a $40 million contract, and he can't guard anybody. So your third player on the floor can't guard anyone, Tom. I mean, everybody's getting by this guy. I mean, he can shoot, and he's good for about 14 points a game, I think is what he averaged. I didn't realize that 14 points a game could bring you $40 million a year in the NBA, Tom. It seemed like for $40 million, you should be bringing me a championship trophy every other year.
This is my issue with the Jimmy. In this case, you have a storied franchise, one of the most storied franchise in NBA history, probably short, not named the Boston Celtics when you look at the number of championships. Unfortunately, I think they're going through a situation where you have, the players who are controlling the decisions that are being made on the team. And that's not to say that LeBron, doesn't have, one of the highest IQs probably of any coach or player in the league. And obviously he is,
one of the midst of basketball. This is about championships.
I understand that.
Everybody keeps talking about his IQ. It's
I understand
what have you won me lately?
This is the point that I'm trying to make. He's trying to coach through the coach. And these decisions are being made for the LeBron, not based upon what the coach, or maybe for that matter, the GM thinks is in the best interest of the team, but what LeBron thinks is in the best interest of the team. I have a great deal of respect for what he has done throughout his career, but the reality of it is, when a coach cannot do his job, then you got a problem on the team. If he wants to coach, just don't have a coach and I think Bill Russell was a player coach.
Bill Russell was a player coach. Bill Russell brought home championships.
Exactly. But let LeBron be a player coach if that's really what he wants to do. But the reality of it is they've had 6 coaches in 13 years, Jimmy. That's almost a new coach every other year. That is not the recipe for a successful franchise.
Jordan had stability at the coaching position. Magic had stability at the coaching position. Teams that have stability at the coaching position, Tom, generally have a chance to be competitive and to be winners. when you're changing coach every other year, that is not a good form. In fact, you look at that situation, and as a stud player, you may even want to avoid that team, even if it means more money. Because
And
that
that's
kind of
yeah,
instability means it's going to be hard for them to plant their seeds anywhere, to get a style of play in place. And now you have LeBron having to veto power of what you're doing. How the hell can you coach in that situation? You want to play one
exactly.
style of basketball, he decides he wants to play another style. And you know he's going to win out in the end.
Yeah, and it is just unfortunate. I believe this is Darvin Ham's first head coaching job. Obviously, he was a player. He was an assistant coach. He's worked his way up through the ranks. And LeBron, by the way, gave him the nod, and I guess he fell out of favor with LeBron and with AD, and so now he gets some canned. And the reality of it is, a lot of these decisions that landed them where they are were not Ham's decision or even Vogel's decisions. They were his decisions, and
Right.
he is passing all the blame to everyone but the person in the mirror.
That is true, Tom. So he goes down from number 2 on my list to maybe number 3 or 4 on my GOAT list, simply for a lack of responsibility. If you want to be the GOAT, then you say, "Hey, I didn't get the job done this year. I wasn't good enough to get it done. I'm going to work hard if I decide to come back next year and see if we can't turn this thing around." You
And
accept no responsibility, even if it's just talk, for the public.
And he is playing at a very high level, considering what is he, 39 years old now?
39 years old, yes.
And AD, he still got some gas left in the tank, but AD is
the most games AD plays.
He is as injury prone as anybody else.
He is.
A bird flies on his shoulder, he's on the ground wincing in pain. And so, Jimmy, both of them are beyond their time. And if you're going to win championships these days, you and I have seen this over and over again. It's not a big 2. It's not a big 3. You got to have solid players on the field, but you also got to have play from the bench. Folks who can come off the bench and contribute. And if all of your money is going into 2 players, you're not going to win these championships. You just
Tom, you have to have your big 2, but then, like you said, you have to have some supporting players, and you have to have a bench. It is not just getting. I mean, if that was the case, the Brooklyn Nets would have won a championship.
Yes.
That was the case. Phoenix should have won a championship.
Yes.
All these teams that are trying to combine the big stars into one team, none of them, Tom, have worked out for the most part. So look at where the Clippers are, and they have them almost 4 Hall of Famers on that team.
Exactly. And I don't really watch the NBA during the season, too many games, but I've been watching them since the first round, so I can get to know these teams because there are a lot of young, talented players, a lot of young teams. I looked at OKC play the Mavericks last night. I
shot it out the gym, Tom.
Oh,
hurt
my
feelings.
God. And,
I hurt my feelings.
Exactly. I mean, I'm watching Minnesota against Denver. Denver is a young team. Minnesota is a younger team.
Edwards is a better player.
Oh, my God.
Another young team.
Young, hungry. There is no way the Lakers were going to make it to the NBA Finals. Probably not even make it to the conference finals. I don't care who you have.
But now even Denver, you have some people that look at Denver and say, "Oh, they too old," because the younger teams are hungry, they're fast, they're athletic, they're long, and they're playing within themselves. So the knock used to be the experience. The older, experienced players just knew how to play the game better. But hell, Tom, that's experience is not getting you very much now. You need people who can actually put the ball in the hoop because these young players are playing at such an exceptional high level. So it's changed my outlook. I think this is the tipping point, Tom, that you can actually look and say that the era of LeBron James, AD, KD, Leonard, Harris, all those players, man, that make up the generation. These are has-beens now. They're slowly going to be pushed aside. Paying them $40, $50 million to be on your team is a fool's errand. I wouldn't pay them $5 million to be on my team now. I'll be to trying to find some young players like the Timberwolves have, and like OKC has totally snuck up on everyone. You can't even name a stud player for OKC. They are so unknown. They have the best record in the West, and no one took them serious until they put the ass whooping on the Mavericks. Now people are like, who the Thunders? You talking about that team with Harris back in the 90s?
They were shooting the lights out. I mean, okay, you got Luka, you got Kyrie, but oh my God, those young kids, they were shooting the lights out.
I
They
mean,
had
just
big guys in the paint.
jacking up threes from all over the place and hitting them. It wasn't like you were shooting them and you weren't able to make the shot. So they were taking shots that were well within their range and ability to put in the hoop, and they did it. Now, can they do it for 4 games? We'll see. But for what I saw, it's like, man, we're gonna have to really have to bring it, Tom, to have a chance against
but
those.
but the problem is this, Jimmy. When you get outside of Luka and Kyrie Irving, who do you have that can really give you the shots when you need it?
Well, that's a good question. So they have Green
from the Mavericks.
Yeah, they have Green, and we're finally getting some points from our 3 bigs, although one of them's hurt. So that's a double-double, and that's always been our Achilles heel is inside scoring. But the bulk of the points, Tom, got to come from those 2. And when those 2,
and when they don't have a good game,
then the rest of them, there's some players, Tom, that are more comfortable when someone else is carrying the load. If you're the one with the weight on your shoulder and I'm the auxiliary support person, then yeah, I can take that crunch shot with confidence, knowing that you're the guy that has to get it done minute after minute, and I'm just a supporting guy. But when I become the guy that has to get it done, well, I may not be able to carry that weight, Tom. And that's how teams get exposed sometimes when their stars go down, and some of these support players have to step up, and they just can't carry the load. It's a difference when you're the man versus the man next to the man, as Harris Williams would say, or the man next to the man next to the man next to the goddamn man.
I got you. Well, I would say this in closing out the story. We definitely wish Darvin Ham the best of luck. I don't think that I mean unfairly fired. I don't know if that's it, but the reality of it is, if we look at it, LeBron had to give the nod for Darvin Ham to become the head coach. And I guess since it didn't work out the way he wanted to, now it's time for Ham to go. And I think it's very unfortunate because we do know that with our coaches, even though 50% of the NBA of their head coaches are black, our coaches don't get reshuffled into the deck as often as other coaches do. So who knows when Darvin Ham will get another head coaching job, but we definitely wish him the best of luck. And I think that, LeBron is looking at his last couple of years. He wants to play with Bronny, and then he's going to call it a wrap. Then what's going to happen to the franchise after that?
I don't know, Tom.
And they're still not going to an NBA Finals. They're not constructed to play against these younger teams.
And Tom, look at what you just said. He wants to play with his son. He's probably going to put the squeeze on the Lakers to draft his son, who averaged 4 points a game. 4 points, Tom.
In college.
In college. I know where you're going to waste a draft pick on a guy who averaged 4 points a game over LeBron, wanting to play with his son. But that's the power that some players have, Tom, and this is why the Lakers won't win another championship for a while, not as long as LeBron's there.
Gotcha. Let's go to our very last story. We'll probably have to get to the other stories next week. It is Mother's Day weekend this upcoming Sunday. And you know what? We've got to spend a couple of minutes on Mother's Day. And, we've always, especially when we get a little bit further in life, sometimes we have trouble trying to figure out what do we need to get for Mom this Mother's Day. And I came up with a brief list of the most popular things.
Okay, what do we have, Tom?
And so there was a poll that was taken. Of course, a card was picked by 74% of people as the best Mother's Day gift. 74% said a card. 67%, of course, said flowers. 27% said jewelry. 23% said a spa. A gift card, 23%. I guess they can go spend it any place. And then after that, it gets close to the single digits. Electronics, 11%. Clothes, 9%. And it kind of goes down from there. So, if we start talking about what do we do for Mother's Day this weekend, for all of you fellas out there, or for all you brothers out there who need to get something for your wife who is a mom, it's Wednesday. You got a couple of days.
Well, if you don't know, now you know.
So, if nothing else, there are the things that you can do, and then there are the other things that you consider. Of course, especially for our old school moms, going to church service with her because, the mothers of the old school, they like to put on that hat and that nice dress and go to church. Jimmy, most of our mothers, at least in our community, they did the cooking on Sundays. And so, bruh, you might have to get out on the grill or get in the kitchen. Cook a nice
That's
dinner.
right. Smoke some meat.
There you
That's
go.
right. Get out there and give mama a break.
Exactly. So you may have to get out there on the grill or in the oven, do some grilling or some bacon and cook a good deal for mother. And okay, you may not be the best cook in the world, but
it's an attempt, Tom.
Exactly.
I'm sure your mother appreciates you making the attempt, even if the food is not that good.
Just don't make her sick, okay? Don't make her sick.
Just don't make her sick.
And then, everybody's mother enjoys doing something, whether that's working in the garden, in the kitchen. Maybe she even goes to the gym, does certain things with her friends. And so, think about and consider what your mother or, the significant mother in your life loves to do outside, inside, and get something that kind of connects and resonates with her on that end and be a little bit creative there as well. It doesn't have to be extremely expensive, but it does need to be thoughtful.
Right. I agree with that 100%, Tom.
We got a couple of sisters out there who are on the chat line. So if y'all have any ideas, put some things in the chat line to help the brothers out who may be struggling to figure out, what they can do for the Mother's Day. I put a list of things down there that, are pretty, they come to mind. If there's anything out there that the sister's like, what, it'd be great, if you could do this for mother. So we'll give you a couple of minutes. And the last thing, while we give the sisters an opportunity to hopefully put a couple of things on there, we won't have a lot of time to talk about it, Jimmy. But Dr. Umar Johnson had an interesting video that you brought up about the Black church. And it had some pretty.
We have to cover that one next week, Tom, because that's kind of a complicated subject. But go ahead, finish your thought.
And so he said some pretty provocative things that we'll probably end up covering a little bit more next week. But his premise is that the Black church backed off of being on the front line of the struggle for the Black community after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Prior to that time, we had been on the front end, fighting for freedom, being willing to go to blows.
The church was everything, Tom.
Exactly. It was the one-stop shop for the Black community. But after the assassination of Dr. King, after the assassination of course, Medgar Evers and Malcolm X, all of which were rooted, in the church community, then he said, in essence, they kind of backed off and decided that maybe we'll just go to lunch, with the president or the mayor or something like that and come up with some ideas and see if we can rob their pockets for something. But all that being said, he made some pretty provocative comments about the church that we'll discuss in a little bit more detail next week. But I just wanted to kind of get the fire starting on that. For those of you who have not seen that video, check it out. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit more next week. And I guess the sisters don't have anything right now coming up for Mother's Day. So I guess we will close this show out because we're right at about 1 hour and 15 minutes. We made an executive decision to extend it a few more minutes this week.
And we can do that because why, Tom? We own
It's
the
our
show.
show.
So ownership has its privileges, Tom. So anyway, we are a little bit long. So thank you for that. And we will go ahead and close out. And until next week.
If it's Wednesday night,